Dark Souls 2 will have you keeling over just as much as the predecessor, but will your hundreds of deaths be in vain, or is this game worth dying for?
A great king built a great kingdom. I believe they called it Drangleic.
Gameplay is very similar to the first Dark Souls game, where you try your best not to die by blocking and dodging your way through various dungeons and labyrinths. The level up system has changed so that you no longer level up by visiting bonfires. Instead, you visit the hub town, Majula, and talk to a woman who can level you up or upgrade your Estus flask so that you can recover more health. Each time you die in the game, you slowly become restricted in how much total health you have, and it finally stops being limited at 50%. This was a frustrating mechanic because the only way to get back to full health was to regain your humanity with an item that is scarce in the game. There's a small chance that you randomly regain your humanity after playing online, but it can become difficult if that's your only option left to regain humanity. The online play is essential to the advancement in the game. If you cannot play online, you miss out on a lot of experience and tips that other players leave. Without summoning players to your aid, some bosses can seem near impossible to beat and would require a lot of leveling up and high stat equipment. Dark Souls 2 does not have an apparent story and requires a lot of digging to actually find out what's going on. The prologue shows your character reaching out to a woman and child as things fall apart around them. Dark Souls 2 uses aspects of Dante's Inferno where your character seems to have become hollow so that they can find their wife or child. The story is really something that's up to interpretation from what the player finds through textual hints and what they discover in the environment, so it's hard to grade the game on its story, but the game holds itself up well enough on gameplay alone that you really don't need to worry about the story at all. Dark Souls hardly gives you time to look at what's around you, but when you aren't running for your life and you take a look at the scenery, Dark Souls is a gorgeous game. Despite being run on last-gen consoles, I was not expecting high-end graphics, but Dark Souls surprised me with how it looked, especially once I reached the Tower of Hades. The first Dark Souls game was, well, dark, but Dark Souls 2 has thrown more sunlight into the mix, and that's really aesthetically pleasing for me. Dark Souls 2 is a game that can be played over and over again with different class choices to see if things could have played out differently, and the PvP makes building the perfect class something to actually strive for. When you start a new game plus, some bosses are added and some boss fights are carried out a little differently, forcing you to find new strategies. The game adds in new things each playthrough up to the 4th playthrough of the game. Overall, Dark Souls 2 is an amazing game. It can become frustrating at times when you get stuck because you haven't been fully prepared to die. A lot. Dark Souls 2 is able to keep up with the addictive qualities of the first game and improve on its aspects. I give Dark Souls a 9 out of 10.
Oh, I'll fool you no longer. You lose your souls. All of them. Over and over again.